Satisfying, that sound. Hello and welcome back to my project Pathfinder, in which I'm doing a part restoration on my 2001 Nissan Pathfinder. And if you missed the latest video where I did some of the painting and undercoating, be sure to check that out in the link above here. And as you can see in behind me here, the Pathfinder is still somewhat disassembled, so I will be putting some of it back together and then also get into the suspension work, which I'm looking forward to. So let's check it out. And as you can see, Mother Nature has not been very nice to me. It's kind of just destroyed my whole work area because it got really windy over here the last week, and this canopy that I've been using had apparently blown away partially, so had to use some tie straps and a spare tire to hold it down. Okay, I'm going to start off with the rear suspension first, and actually this is the new coil spring right here, and this is from the brand Moog, and I've used a lot of their suspension components already on the vehicle when I did other work in the past, so I'm going to continue to use them as they're pretty good. And here is an old insulator from the top which came off the vehicle, so that's not new, and then the old sleeve off the existing spring. So I took those both and put it on the new coil spring right here. And you're probably wondering, Nathan, are you gonna do a suspension lift? Like, now is the best time to do it? And heck yes I am. Of course, I decided to go with a 1-inch spacer in the front and rear, and this is from SF Creations. And you're probably wondering, that's not SF Creations, theirs are usually white, but I actually painted this black to match the rest of the rear of the vehicle because I didn't want it to be obvious that I had a 1-inch spacer on my vehicle. Alright, if you watched a couple of videos ago, you'll know that I removed the bump stop up here because there was a lot of rust. So I took those out, and on the driver's side, I actually broke the bolt off, unfortunately, and I couldn't get it extracted. I just gave up. So I decided to mount the new bump stops down here, and I'm hoping they'll work out pretty well. They are quite smaller than the factory ones, but I've heard good things about these little ones off of Amazon, so we'll try them out. In order to compress the spring, I'm actually going to use one of these compressor tools here, which I only paid about maybe $40. I got it on sale at the local hardware store, so I'm going to use that, and this should make life a lot easier. Alright, I got the spring compressed here, now I'm going to install it. Alright, with the new coil spring installed with the 1-inch spacer here at the bottom, and now it's time to install the new shock absorbers in the rear. Now I chose the brand KYB for this, as a lot of people do for this R50 platform, and I'm hoping they'll be pretty good. Now the originals I took out earlier when I was doing the soda blasting and removing all the rust was actually not that bad. They were actually still pretty good, but again, they were 20 years old, so I decided to chuck them out and go with something hopefully even better than the original. Alright, so it's just going to be mounted like this inside here, and I'm not going to go through the details like I did when I was taking off the originals, so I'm just going to kind of fast forward this. Alright, I got the new shock absorber and the coil in with the 1-inch spacer, and that's looking pretty good. So now I'm going to go onto the other side and do the same thing, and then I'll torque it afterwards. Alright, one thing I just realized before I was going to start filming on this side of the vehicle was actually this whole shelter, as I said earlier, had shifted over to the other side. And to be quite honest, it would be a lot of work to just move it back, and, you know, it's not the end of the world. So I'm actually not going to film doing this side. You know, I figured, you know, this is not really enough working space to give you guys a good angle to see how things are going. And it's the exact same as the other side. So just going to wait till we do the front, and that will get more interesting. All right, it's time to move on to the front suspension. And in my right hand here, I have the original strut, which came with the vehicle. And to say it's, you know, held up pretty well is an understatement, but I am going to replace them with the new KYBs in the front, and again, Moog springs as well. But don't forget, I also have the 1-inch spacer, which I'm going to do in the front as well. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to compress the spring just enough to get this little plastic sleeve off, because I want to reuse this on the new spring. Okay, I finally cut it off. That was a bit more tricky than I thought. Probably a lot more work than what it's worth, but I mean, still in pretty good shape here. Like, that's not bad. Well, hello. It's a new day, and I'm going to continue working on the front suspension and building the new struts. And if you recall, in the last clip there, I just harvested the sleeves off the old coil. So now I'm going to assemble all the new hardware. So these are the sleeves I harvested off the old coil, so I'm going to reuse those. And then right here, I bought a KYB kit for the mount, and it includes the bellow, the mount itself, and then the bearing. But instead of using this bearing here, I'm actually going to use the factory OEM Nissan bearings, because these ones apparently are a lot better to use with this kit. Some good news, I was able to shift over this canopy, so now I have some more working space on this side, so I can actually show you the stuff I'm doing on this end. Okay, so kind of just reading their instructions here for this kit. I've already assembled the bellow like this here, and then I also have the top plate here, which I think I have to use this bottom plate and actually, you know, take out these bolts, because I am putting the 1-inch suspension kit in here, and these bolts are going to be too short. So I'm going to use the bolts that SF Creation supplied me. So I got to get these ones out. That should be pretty interesting, but I'll try and get them out as best I can. Hello and welcome to my secret lair. In other words, just a workshop that I use from time to time. But I just wanted to show you guys this process of me taking off these bolts, because I feel like that would be very helpful and also kind of entertaining as well. Okay, as you can see, I got all the bolts out here on the bottom of the strut mount. I guess this is the bottom plate, I guess is what they call it. So now I'm ready to install it. Despite the fact that these look like they have a factory coating on them, which I'm sure is helping a little bit, I'm actually going to paint these black to match the rest of the other mount equipment that I have for the strut, because I want it to all look the same, and it looks like the rust is starting to eat away at the coating, so I am going to just touch it up now. So they look pretty good, and now I can mount them. You can see here I have just a rough fitment just to see what it's like to get the coil on the new strut here. And I have the kit here from SF Creations, which has the 1-inch spacer, which I'm not going to paint black because it'll be hidden up inside the fender. Rather than making you watch me struggle to assemble the front struts, I decided to just skip that part and just show you the final result. And as you can see here, the whole strut is assembled as it should be. And I have the new strut right here, and the new coil with the new bellow, and the old top hat right here with the new OEM bearing, and then also the 1-inch spacer from SF Creations. And I followed their instructions on how to install it, so everything should be ready to go. Alright, hopefully this goes in nice and easily. Alright, with the 3 bolts now in at the top, at least they're just hand tight. They still can move around, so that way I can at least get this into better position. So I'm going to actually now just install these 2 bolts that tie in the wheel. And I bought a camber bolt kit for the vehicle. Of course, I'm probably going to need that for an alignment later. So I bought this, and I'm going to just install it. I've used the Moog brand again. So I finished with the front suspension. I haven't torqued down anything quite yet. I'm going to do that a little bit later. But what I'm going to do now, and you probably looked at them and you were thinking, that's nasty, and that is replacing the front rotors. Now, the rotors and the brakes on the front of the vehicle weren't in horrible shape, but the rust is really bad, and almost to the point of where it just looks horrible, so I'm going to replace them. You know, I figured I'm doing this much work, I might as well just go through the extra steps and replace those as well. Ooh, it looks pretty nasty. I'll have to clean this up a little bit. Unfortunately, there's no real rust though on this side, which is nice. And this is the old rotor. As you can see on the edge here, it's quite a bit of rust, and there's almost a bit of a lip to it now on the edge. I'm at the point now where I'm ready to install the new wheel bearings. Yes, I decided to go with new ones because I didn't want to have to worry about this years down the road where, you know, it starts making weird noises and I have to, you know, pay a shop to do it because it can be expensive after a while. So decided to just do them now. And of course, I decided not to replace the race because I've heard that you don't need to replace it, you know, unless they're discolored or they have nicks. So these ones are actually in perfectly good shape, so I'm not going to bother replacing those. So I'm going to install these new wheel bearings, but I also got a tool for this, and that is one of these wheel bearing packing tools. Now I decided to do this because it apparently can save some time, but also I want to make sure that they're well packed and that they're done properly, so I want to just do it right the first time. So I decided to spend the extra $30 on this tool and just make this job a lot easier. So this is the bearing here, and I've used that tool to pack it, but as you can see, it's still not like gonna catch all the way out here, of course, because it is fully packed inside this little ring here. There's a little gap, so it's worked pretty well, but I am gonna have to use a little bit of extra grease just to kind of coat the outside, and I kind of want to just coat the inside around here to make sure that's well packed. So again, it's not perfect, but it does save a little bit of effort. Hello and welcome to yet another day in this video. Yesterday when I was working on the passenger side rotor, it was kind of tedious and took a while, and also I was just getting tired of being soaked, sitting on the ground there replacing the rotor, so I just decided to just call it a day once I finished that side. And then now I'm here today, and I just finished the driver's side here, as you can see. And don't worry, I'll be cleaning it up afterwards. I'll use some brake cleaner and clean it once I'm ready to install the actual caliper itself. But now I'm actually going to do a little bit of work on the calipers and actually spruce those up as well. Welcome to my makeshift table, which I've made using an old spare tire and some foam pads, which I bought the other day because I wanted to sit on something comfortable. So now I've used this as a table that I'm going to use to repair, or better yet, replace some of the old components on the caliper mounts here. And this is the old pads, which I'm not going to use, obviously. Get rid of those. Goodbye. Goodbye. And in my box of goodies here, I've got some new bolts, which I guess I'll just use these ones. Satisfying, that sound. Okay, these are ready to go. Got the new boots on, got the new pins going through them. So yeah, pretty much ready to install. Okay, the piston is now compressed on the caliper itself. Now I'm going to just put a little bit of lubricant at either end of the new brake pads. Of course, should be relatively straightforward. With all the brake calipers installed, now I'm just going to start the vehicle and just give the pedal a couple pushes, just so that way when I go to move it later, I'll actually have some brakes. So I'm going to do that right now. The brakes are now done. Those are fully installed and ready to go. And now I don't have to worry about those in the near future. So I'm quite happy about that. And I'm actually going to end today's video here on that note, because in the next video, there's still going to be a bit of work ahead of me. And hopefully I'll get into some of the modifications. But also I have to really finish assembling this vehicle because of cold weather is really coming in, and winter I can feel is just around the corner. So in the next video, I'm actually going to do a little bit more installation. I'll show you guys some of it, and also I'm going to get into some of the modifications, which should be really fun. Just want to say thank you very much for watching these videos. I do appreciate it, and all your nice comments. And if you have any comments, be sure to say those below in the comment section. And if you aren't subscribed to the channel, do that so that way you don't miss any videos like this one, and also car reviews on my channel. Now until next time, take care. Bye now.